Hooty hoo, all my stock market gamblers. Welcome today. I'm Tall Mike. So glad you're here. Well, we made it to the end of the week. What do we got going on today? Well, the Dow's down about 100. NASDAQ's down about 50. A little bit of a down. They started off as an up day, but kind of reverse course now. Now we've had some excitement in the stock market, right? The S&P was stuck at 4,100. Well, it actually shot up and passed 4,200 today. Now I said the resistance zone is 4,150 to 4,200, and it kind of gave us a little head fake up today, but it's already come back down to about 4,180. I don't think we're going to get through this resistance zone. I really don't. I think it's going to hold up. Now there's these things that are called Bollinger Bands. Now, Bollinger Bands, they run along the moving averages, one on the top, one on the down. Okay, so anyways, the market popped its head above the top Bollinger Band. Okay, now why am I excited about that? Well, I'm excited about that because once it gets back inside of that band, well, that is where the big move is going to start. It's going to start to come down. Now, why do I think it's going to come down and not just run up from here, run up higher? All right, so the stock market has been going like this, right? S&P's been going up, NASDAQ's been going up, the Dow's been going up, but what has not followed? Well, the junk bonds. Look at it. Look at the chart of the HYG. When the stock market's going up and the junk bonds are going down, this will reverse. I'm telling you. Okay, this is my take. Of course, you do what you want, but I'm excited about it because we have a divergence between the stock market and the junk bonds. The junk bonds usually lead the market, so I am expecting a pullback, and I'm expecting this thing to get very ugly in the next month or two. The talks on the debt ceiling have come to a standstill now. We'll see how that plays out next week. A lot of people are going to be nervous over the weekend. This market could come in a lot starting next week. Just my take. All right, let's go over to the real estate market. Now, I want to talk first a little bit about the luxury end of the real estate market, the high-end properties. Now, these are come to a standstill. These are frozen up, okay? Well, there's a lot of inventory on the market if you want to buy a high-end home. High-end homes, well, in my area, that'd be about 5 million, 2 million on the condos. Okay, now I want to talk about San Francisco a little bit. They got this condo tower called the Millennial Tower. Okay, all right, so this is 58 floors, right? 58 floors high. And when they built this thing, well, they built it with a few problems. You see, it sank by 2 feet on one side of the tower. So it's kind of like leaning over. It's kind of tilting, right? So it sank by 2 feet. So they're trying to fix it. All right. So they're spending $100 million to fix the tower to make it stand up straight, right? All right. Now, maybe they can, maybe they cannot. But there's a penthouse suite right at the top of the 58th floor. Now, they're trying to sell this for $14 million. $14 million. All right. Now, it's just a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 3,000 square feet. $14 million. Now, it does have good views, but it's a little lopsided, a little slanted over. All right. So $14 million. Now, they bought this back in 2016 for roughly the same price. So he's owned it 7 years and hasn't gone up because of the tower. The tower's got problems. Okay. So now when they spend $100 million to retrofit the tower so that'll stand up straight, who pays for that? Well, usually, if they can, they sue the contractor, right? The person that built it. Because obviously he built a bad building if it's tilting over 2 feet already, right? Okay, so they try to sue. But let's say he's bankrupt. Well, who pays for it? Well, each condo unit would then be assessed. And when you're talking $100 million, I don't know how many units there are in there, but it's a lot of money on an assessment. I had another one that was out in Foster City. I actually sold them the property. They liked it, but it's starting to sink. You see, Foster City, for those of you not familiar, it's in between San Francisco and San Jose, but it's built on a man-made island, They made it out of sand, and apparently some units are sinking, so they had to retrofit this, and each unit got assessed $50,000. Now, my friend, he didn't have the $50,000, so what had to happen? Well, he had to go get a loan. Now, it was nice of the association to arrange for the loan so that you didn't have to pay your $50,000 all at once, but that's what can happen. Now, in the luxury market in San Francisco, the luxury market is down, well, it's off by about 70%. 70% year over year. Now, that's the number of sales. But you got to understand, when it freezes up like that, pretty soon it's only cash buyers. Now, in that tower I mentioned, that's leaning over 2 feet, you got to be a cash buyer. Now, why? Well, because no bank in their right mind would ever make a loan on a condo that's leaning over by 2 feet. Now, how safe would you feel living in that condo? Well, could you get insurance on that condo? So let's say you went out and you had an extra 14 million lying around. You bought that unit, right? Well, what are your property taxes going to be? They're going to be about $20,000 a year. Well, what's the association fee going to be? Well, it's about $3,000 a month, so about $36,000 a year. So you got to come up with about $56,000 a year, and that's if you pay all cash. But you got to pay all cash because no banks will make loans on that particular unit. It's quite fascinating to me. Okay. All right. So let's get to the regular side of things, where just the average homes, right? The average homes, well, they're only off by about 20 or 30% year over year. Existing home sales numbers came out. Depends on what area you live in, but they're down and down, between 20 and 30%. The market is freezing up. There's a credit crunch. People cannot buy this. People go, but Mike, there's no inventory. And I get that, but I think that's a temporary problem. Now, why do I think that the inventory is just a temporary problem? Well, there's never been a time in history, never in the history of the world, where people have not been allowed to pay their mortgage and still live in the property. Never a time in the history of the world where people have not been able to pay their rent and they're still allowed to stay in the problem. But Mike, we had a pandemic. Of course, we can't charge them rent. Of course, they don't have to pay their mortgage. Well, what if this worked for grocery stores, right? During the pandemic, you have to eat, right? So why if you just wheeled the cart into the grocery store, filled it up, and wheeled it right on out? Well, they do that in San Francisco. That's what they were doing in the Whole Food store. The police didn't stop them. Police didn't care. They had bigger problems, right? So they just walk out with all the food. Well, what happened? Well, the grocery store went out of business. That Whole Food store, gone now, right? Okay, so anyways, I feel sorry for the landlords. Some landlords out here in California, they haven't got any rent for 3 years. This is their business. This is them like owning a grocery store. This is the mom and pop. This isn't the big corporations that own these properties. This is the mom and pop not getting rent for 3 years. So I say this housing situation with the inventory is temporary. Of course, it's caused by the government, caused by the, the moratorium on the evictions, caused by the forbearance on the mortgages, caused by the Federal Reserve keeping rates at 0% for the last 12, 14 years, which was way, way, way too long. And of course, they started buying the mortgages, 3 trillion of them they bought. Now, they say they're going to start selling those. Now, that will really put downward pressure on the housing market. But a lot of these people now that were in forbearance, there was about 5 or 6 million of them, they have to now start making their mortgage payment. Well, a lot of them can't catch up because what the banks do, they attached all the fees, right? They attached all the interest and attached all the back payments, and now they can't catch up, so they're behind. So there's going to be forced selling coming onto the marketplace. I think there's going to be millions of these units coming on. This is my take, of course, not in your area, but in my area, there's going to be a lot of them coming on, and across the country, I think it's actually going to be millions. Now, why? Why millions of properties are going to be foreclosed upon? Well, let's talk about this a little bit. All right, so Home Depot, they came out with their earnings report, and their numbers were way down. It's like the worst miss on earnings in like 20 years, right? Well, because people aren't buying stuff at Home Depot anymore. Okay, so here's the thing. Now, people aren't selling their house because they're frozen in, they're rate locked. They have to stay with their 3%, so they're not moving. And typically, When people do not move from house to house, they tend to fix up their house. They tend to upgrade. They tend to remodel the kitchen, remodel the bathroom, put in new carpeting, new flooring. They do work on their property. They upgrade it. And all that's being bought at Home Depot. So nobody's moving, but nobody's buying at Home Depot. What does this tell me? It tells me that the consumer, the homeowner, if you will, well, he's kind of tapped out. Now, credit card debt up 20% in the first quarter of this year. 20% year over year, it went up. Now, everybody knows credit card debt, all the interest rate on that's over 20%. Now, why would you use credit cards if you had money? You don't want to pay 20%, but yet it's going like that. It's at a record high. It's going to hit $1 trillion. Okay, so the consumer's tapped out. They have to use their credit cards, right? Okay, so they use their credit cards, but their credit cards are not tapped out, so they can't buy things to fix up their home, to make it nice. All right, so now the homeowner, now he's got a mortgage to pay, right? He's got insurance. He's got to keep his house up. He's got to have maintenance. Now, he's not upgrading because Home Depot's not getting the business. He's got an energy cost. You know what utility bills are doing? My goodness, my utility bill just went like that. I mean, it just keeps going up, right? Okay, now they got consumer debt, though. Not just their credit cards. They got car loans. Car loan debt is at record highs. Now, car loans are actually well, they're a foreshadow of what's going to happen to the housing market. Right now, it's 10 to 15,000 a day. Repossessions, the repo man's getting shot at. Repo men are getting dead. Look, you don't want to be a repo man right now. They need more of them. If you want a job really bad, go be a repo man. Some people are, take the job and they repo 8 to 10 cars a day. It's impressive how they do that. I mean, that's, they go take them back. All right, so car loans are underwater. All these loans are underwater because they paid way too much. Well, what else did people pay way too much for? Well, they paid way too much for their house loans, right? Houses went up 20%. And now they're up here. They're like car loans. But the car loans are already going underwater and they're taken back. 10,000 a day. That's like crazy, right? Well, that's going to happen to the house loans. It's just a delayed reaction. People will hold on to their house longer than their car. They might walk to work, maybe take the bus to work, but they're going to get to work to keep paying for their house. They want to stay in their house. See, that mortgage forbearance thing now's over. Yeah, you can, rearrange your loan, but you can't refinance, right? You can't pull the money out of the house anymore because you go from 3% to 7%. Even with the 40-year loan or a 50-year loan, you're going to be paying more than your current loan. So there's no way to get money out of your house and go, but Mike, they can get a HELOC loan. Look at the HELOCs are drying up. These regional banks are going down. They're losing $13 billion. A week is being sucked out of their bank. It's like a big vacuum sucking sound, just pulling the money out of the bank accounts. They don't have the money to give you the HELOC right now. So the HELOC money's drying up. People are locked in with no money. They are tapped out on their credit cards. They don't know what to do. They're losing their car first, but they're going to lose their house next. And I think there's going to be just millions and millions of these coming onto the market. This, of course, is just my take. You see the consumer? Well, the consumer is tapped out. I think, real estate makes up, about 20% of the GDP. That's just the housing market in the U.S. 20%. And when it's frozen, what happens to the GDP number? Starts to come down. What do they call that? They call that a recession. Now, of course, we can't use that word, but I'm telling you, we've been in a recession. We're in a recession. We're going into a recession. All of that is true, but we're going to hit the D word next. We're going to be in that depression. Once again, I always use that D word on a Friday. I know a lot of people freak out when I say depression, but I really believe it's coming. I want to be wrong. People think I want to be right. People think I want the housing market to crash 50%. I don't. I'm going to lose all my equity, right? And it could crash much more than that. It could go 70, 80%. Now, people tell me there's no way that's going to happen, Mike. I'll get my haters in the comments. Oh, I love my haters. You guys know that. But anyways, if you like this stuff, give me the thumbs up, especially if you're a hater. Give me the comments. Oh, the haters, they comment like 10 times more than the people that like me. It's fascinating stuff. Anyways, get out there. We got the weekend ahead. Get out there, everybody. Have a great weekend. I'm Tall Mike. I want to talk to you again next week. Punch that subscribe button. Bye-bye.